So, after weeks of debating, you finally bit the bullet and you've purchased the new F124 game. After downloading the game on console and installing it on your PC, you play it for the first time and realise, whoa, this is different compared to the previous F1 games. Why is the handling so unbalanced? Why is the car so unpredictable in braking and acceleration? And why am I somehow slower on F1 24 compared to the pace I had on 23 or 22? If you're experiencing any of these issues that have been mentioned in the video, then guess what? This video is for you. What's happening everyone, TomGorian here, and today I'm going to be telling you how to become faster on F1 24. In order to understand what's limiting you from being quicker on F1 24, we need to go to the basics. And when I say basics, I mean the assists. The assist by default can cost you anywhere between half a second and even a whole second of lap time, which in Formula 1 is so much time during a race. So the three main assists that we're going to be looking at in this video are ABS, racing line, and traction control. Let's start with the first assist, ABS, otherwise known as automatic braking system, which pretty much allows you to stamp on the brake at any corner on the track without locking up. Now, pretty much because of this allows the game to pretty much determine how much speed you're carrying into the corner and then how much you're accelerating from it, thus losing lap time. The main reason why you want to turn ABS off on F1 24 is something we like to call trail braking. Trail braking is a method of braking that when you brake, you go full brake, but as you ease and enter the corner, you slowly but surely lift off the brake at 75%, 50%, and then eventually 20-25%, to the point where you go through the corner and you barely lose any time. If done correctly, you can gain around about a tenth or two per corner without locking up. And with ABS turned off, you are determining yourself as far as how much braking load and how much momentum you're taking into that exact corner instead of the game doing it for you, thus gaining you lap time. The second assist we're talking about is racing line, and to be honest, this is the hardest one because of personal experience. From my own point of view, F1 24 is the first F1 game that I'm doing no line with, and so far I'm finding it very 50-50 as far as my success and my overall pace. What the racing line is well, it's self-explanatory. It's a color-coded racing line pretty much telling you when to brake and when to accelerate coming in and out of corners. However, the only problem with racing line is that sometimes the line tells you to brake way earlier than what you can actually get away with, thus causing you at least a couple tenths of lap time. To me, racing line is the hardest assist to turn off on F1 24, simply because you're not relying on a color coordinated line telling you when to brake and when to accelerate. You have to rely on the track surroundings, so brake marker boards, shadows, borders, trees, curbs, etc. There's so many videos on YouTube talking about hot laps and track details and giving you a good explanation as far as, how to guide a certain circuit with no line. The last assist that you want to be turning off is traction control. Now, to me, traction control is the easiest assist to turn off, simply because of how much downforce and how much grip these Formula 1 cars have nowadays. This is not like F1 2016 where they were much more smaller, a little bit more compound, a little bit more tighter, and the tyres were a little bit more leaner as far as grip and overall downforce is concerned. But to me, ever since F1 2017, where the cars got really more wider and they generated more grip with the wider tyres, and of course more downforce with the wider wings and just the wider space of the cars, turning off traction control has never been more easier in any F1 game, to the point where if you're even using medium TC on F1 24, you may as well just turn it off, simply because it's a waste of your time. Traction control limits how much traction you pretty much have coming out of slow and medium speed corners, and when it comes to using setups and trying to find the right balance for setups, traction control limits how good your setup is in a qualifying lap or a race distance. To me, this is probably the most important assist to turn off, because if you can do so, and it took me, when I turned it off on F1 2017, it pretty much took me around about a whole year to full on master it, but if you can turn off traction control, you're automatically going to be quicker and you're going to feel it. Now let's get to the second part of this video as to how to become faster on F1 24, time trial. Now, When I say time trial, I don't mean like do time trial practice for league races. I'm just talking general track knowledge. If you've turned off all the assists, you want to be going into time trial and you want to be picking a certain circuit. Let's say Silverstone. I think Silverstone is probably one of the best circuits to try and master it as far as braking, acceleration, and just getting a feel for the circuit. Now, yes, time trial isn't as realistic as a Grand Prix session or even online, to the point where I think it's, 1.5 seconds quicker than real life times. So that's the only downside when it comes to time trial. But if you're going to do time trial laps on F1 24, you want to be doing it for track knowledge as far as brake marker boards, turning ratios, the corners themselves, gear ratios, and just getting a understanding as far as how to drive a certain track to its absolute limit. The more laps you do around time trial, the better you'll get for an understanding as far as that certain circuit. Now it's time to add a bit of a controversial topic when it comes to how to get faster on F1 24, and that's the equipment that you use. I think if you asked a lot of people who played F1 24, would you be quicker with more expensive equipment compared to cheaper steering wheels or even a controller? I think a lot of people would say no, but I think they would also say you would be more immersed in the experience of driving said car. Now, even though in recent F1 game titles, the game itself has been more favouring, wheel-based users, but let me make this clear. It's still possible for you to be quick as a wheel user on a controller. However, when it comes to the cheaper versus expensive racing wheels in the racing wheel market, I don't think there's going to be much of a difference as far as outright speed, but I think there's a complete difference as far as the immersion and feeling. You see, wheel users have something called force feedback, which is pretty much the forces generated from the game, generated into the console, and then comes from an output onto the racing wheel. And that's what the driver relies on as far as, the tire grip or a certain surface as far as how the track is, or even, tire wear, just to see or feel how much tire wear there is on the car. Force feedback is one of the most important things to have when you're playing not just an F1 game, but any racing game in general, to the point where if you're playing a racing game and you don't have any force feedback, then the feeling is just complete weirdness. However, when it comes to the cheap versus expensive debate of racing wheels, it all comes down to force feedback, and the expensive racing wheels are known as direct drives. I'm not going to get into the whole topic of cheap versus expensive wheels because there's a lot of videos out there telling you what the difference is between the latest high-end direct drive and the cheapest racing wheel on the market. All I'm going to say is this: the equipment that you use does not determine or define your pace on a racing game, but it does determine the experience and the overall immersion that you get from it. And the last thing I want to talk about in this video, and it might be the most important part of how to get faster on F1 24, understanding the meta. A meta, according to Google, is a generally agreed upon strategy by the community. Said strategy is considered to be the most optimal way to win / has the best performance at a specific task. You've probably heard the term meta in FIFA when it comes to tactics or formations, and when it comes to the F1 game, it's always the setup. On F1 22, the setup meta was low downforce. On F1 23, the setup was high downforce. So what is the meta on F1 24? And the answer to that question is, well, I don't know. It honestly seems to me like meta of the wing values in F1 24 is a bit of a mix of 22 and 23s, to the point where you can't run as high as you could do on last year's game, but you certainly can't run the wings lower. I think the meta, when it comes to the wing values for the setups on F1 24, is a bit of a balanced middle wing setup, to the point where it's not really low by any means, but it's not as high valued as it was on 24, to the point where you might have to go maybe -5 or -6 wing values compared to what you were running last year. I think in a race situation, tire pressures are on maximum for every single track, because apparently the less pressure you put on the tyres on F124, the more that they heat up, which doesn't make any sense at all. These were just some of the ways as to how to get faster on F124. However, if you're looking for an ideal way to practice for league races, then check out this video right here. Thanks for watching, make sure to leave a like, share, comment and subscribe for more F124 content, and I'll see you all in the next video in a bit.